What is going on, you beautiful, beautiful people? This is Unnecessary Rambling. Welcome. How are you? Hope you're well. And on this beautiful, beautiful Sunday afternoon as we're recording here. And I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Jeffrey Martin in the building. How you doing, man?
What's up, man? Keep smoothing.
Keeping it smooth and
All right,
keeping
see
it
ya.
rolling.
That's gonna be our whole show. Is just a little dance, keep smoothing. We're done. No games. You just have to look at the games behind you and the games behind me, and that's it. That's our whole show now. So hopefully it takes off. So like,
Speaking
subscribe.
speaking of the games behind me, do you notice a little change to anything on the games behind me?
Well, now there's pressure because now you're asking me if I pay how much I pay attention. Which, give me a second. Give me a second. I want to
I'm
film.
gonna
I don't want there to be dead air.
I'm gonna give you a hint. It's in this direction.
Is it the N64 boxes?
Yeah, I
Okay.
sold my Switch.
Well, okay, wow. So wait a minute. All right, I noticed the N64 boxes, but I didn't.
Yeah.
That just okay. So wait, what? Tell us. Okay, you need to tell us about this because I know you weren't a Nintendo guy. We'll go into that in a little bit, but I thought from what I gathered is you still like some of the stuff. So what happened? Why is your Switch gone? What's up?
So I was reading the comment from my guy Madden Looney on the last episode, and he just mentioned, like, he wasn't trying to say, hey, you need to sell your Switch. He just mentioned that, like, nothing was really clicking for him on an exclusive front on the Switch. And he was like, I just ended up parting with it, got a little bit of money out of it while I could. And I was like, oh damn. While I can still get some money out of this thing, because we're not. And after that direct, it seems like we might not be getting a Switch 2 for a little while. And
Yeah.
so I was like, while there's still some money to be had with this thing, let me go and get some money out of it. And I cleared up everything that I'm buying for the rest of the year, selling the Switch and the games paid for it. So I'm okay with that purchase. But yeah, I ended up selling the Switch.
So is everything like all the games, everything you had for it, which I guess why would you keep the games? Is everything gone for it pretty much? Okay, bye. See ya. It's been good. See you later. Keep smoothing. Bye.
All right.
So I just wanted, yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. I know you weren't a Nintendo guy, but that is a big thing, I feel like. So okay. So what are you doing with those then?
So
Are you going to sell them or are
I
you just going to keep them for collector's purposes?
I don't know why. I was gonna sell everything, but GameStop wouldn't take these, and I went to GameStop, which I know is gonna anger a bunch of people. But it was like I don't care about I really didn't
Who
care about
cares?
the value much at all. It was just
Right.
like, let me get something out of this thing and then buy some new games with it. So I kept No More Heroes, No More Heroes 2, and they wouldn't take anything sealed. So I have Deadly Premonitions too, which I'm kind of glad I kept that one because I think that was exclusive to
Okay.
the Switch. Uh,
Okay.
and then just a couple other things that I have
Huh.
sealed, and a controller that they wouldn't take. So that's my adventure to GameStop to sell my Switch. I know people are going to be furious that I took that thing to GameStop, but I
Who cares?
the thing about it is, like, I know this is sacrilegious, but dude, GameStop is actually a whole hell of a lot better than, like, what they're going to do with the prices on some of those games to get it back into the hands of, like, regular people is a whole hell of a lot better than what some resellers would do. And I'll just say that,
That's fair. That's
yeah,
fair.
because they're not going to take something that might be $80 and then put it on their shelf for $80. They'll put it back for
Yeah.
59.99 or whatever the case may be. So yeah, but yeah,
Wow.
sold the old Switch, man.
That's a big thing. I mean, I know you weren't hot on it, but that's a big thing. So, don't worry for anyone watching. Still, like, we'll still talk about Nintendo stuff. I'm still
Oh
a
yeah.
Nintendo guy, so like, don't worry. It doesn't mean we're not going to talk about Nintendo stuff, but I feel like that's a big thing, and that actually leads me into a question. This is off again. I'll kind of more off the. What am I trying to say? It doesn't matter. Do you have any? Do you collect or do you have games for any other systems that you don't own? Because that makes me
No.
think like, okay, so any other games you collect for, you own the system for.
Yeah.
So you don't got like some ColecoVision games or Atari games or something like crazy. Okay.
No, I don't
Okay.
believe I have anything at all that I don't. Yeah, no, everything else
Okay.
that I have a system for it.
All right. Well, that's a big change. So but you don't miss it?
No, well, here's the thing, man. I'll probably, depending on what they do with the Switch too, if it's like, a little bit more. Here's the thing, and we talked about this last week with Tears of the Kingdom. I think that would be my game of the year if I played it on PS5 or Xbox. I literally do not like playing the Switch ever. And so to me, it was just like, let me get a couple bucks out of this thing. And then I got, people are gonna hate me for this. So I
Who
know
cares?
everybody's super anti pre-order. I just went ahead and pre-ordered everything up until December that I want to play, and I got like $400 for the thing. So
That's good. Okay.
not awful, not awful.
Well,
But
let's save the rest of the Nintendo stuff for when we'll get to it in a little bit because I have more to say about it. But what I will say is I understand what you're saying about the Switch. I don't touch my I don't play handheld. I'm not a handheld guy, and the only time I play Switch is if I'm playing like a first party game, which again we'll get to that stuff later with my wife. I used to adore playing the Switch because when I ran, for anyone that doesn't know, the previous channel I ran was an indie game channel, and a lot of the codes you would get and review keys, things like that, were typically or could be easily obtainable on Switch from the key sites, behind the scenes stuff. So I just was used to playing indie games on Switch, but since that phase is over of YouTube stuff, I'm like you, I don't touch it, but unless I'm specifically playing like a first party game with my wife, which even then I'm like you, I try to get it on Xbox or PlayStation. So you know what? If that means you can buy other games and not worry as much, like again, who cares? It's what's the point of hanging on to if you're never going to use it? I guess,
totally,
so
and that's the thing. I'm the exact same way, man. The only time I play the Switch is with it docked. And so for
yeah.
me, if I'm going to play something dock, like a regular console, I'm going to play the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox. And yeah, I it is what it is. I do think that direct was damn good, and we'll talk about that later. Regardless of how I feel about Nintendo personally, and I don't hate Nintendo. I'm so used to the other configurations with the buttons and stuff that it's just hard to kind of swap between all three. But yeah, man.
Why don't we just jump into the Nintendo thing quickly? Because we don't want to touch long. There's no point of like skirting over. We'll jump into what we're playing, which will be fun. But why don't we just hop into that really quickly? Because I know you said you don't have as much. I have a lot more. So I'm just curious, like, should we just hop into it now really quick? The direct, we're recording this on June 25th. The direct happened, I believe, on June 21st or 2nd. So a few days ago. Let's just do a quick just overview. It doesn't really matter because every other channel's already gone over it. So this is more just for us, and a few people in the comments were interested as well. But
Yeah.
what are your overall thoughts then, as not a Nintendo guy, as not someone that has a Switch anymore? What's your overall thoughts? Was there anything that even jumped out to you, despite again not being like a Nintendo or Switch guy?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It was a good direct, a really, really good direct. But once again, it confirmed to me that it was going to be a little bit until we got the Switch too. So here's the thing, man. There the game that caught my eye just off the gate, and this is one that I think we're going to share, is Penny's Big Breakaway. Did you see
Yeah,
that?
the 3D platformer, right?
That looked incredibly fun. It's from the Sonic Mania team,
Mm-hmm.
which, one of the more beloved Sonic games. This looks really fun. You're like sliding down rails and zip lining and then flying around at times. A really beautiful world. Just it looks like a good 3D platformer, and it's saying 2024 for PS5, Xbox, and Switch. So I'm excited for that.
So I'm surprised that it makes me happy to hear that because I'm a huge platforming, especially 3D platforming guy. From what I gather, what I know of you is you aren't a big platforming guy. So I'm surprised that was like something that jumped out to you because it just looks like another bright, colorful, cheery 3D platformer. So is it just because of the Sonic Mania development team, or because you're not a big platforming guy, right? Or am I wrong about that?
Well, I love, like the Sly Cooper games, old Crash Bandicoot games. Like, so I have
Okay.
a lot of nostalgia with that. And I don't know. I actually think this looked much better than kind of your tradition. Like, this looked like it had a real budget behind it. You were seeing a lot of, once again, variety. It's the theme of my life with video games, but you saw a lot of variety with the different locations, and it was beautiful, vibrant, colorful, happy looking. But yeah, I just thought it looked really, really good.
That's a good shout. It makes me happy to hear you talk about that game because I'm not hearing really any other like bigger channels that have done reactions or talking about the direct, afterwards. I haven't really heard anybody talk about it
Really?
because there's obviously, well, let's get to really quickly. Obviously the massive announcements, which this is old news to anyone at this point, but the massive announcements from the direct were a full on remake of Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars, this time now just called, Super Mario RPG. That It's funny, like the reaction I had and like everyone else seemingly had, you can tell me if yours was, when the first little screen popped up of Peach sitting in the little grass field. Most people were like, okay, cool, Super Mario RPG is coming to Nintendo Switch Online. Hey, that's pretty sweet. But then as soon as there was that little like glowing ball and it switched to the new version of Peach, immediately people, myself included, were like, wait a minute, this is like a full-on remake. Do you have any love for that old game? Do you even know anything about it? Because I haven't played it myself, the old one, the 1996 SNES one, I think.
I have never played. I played a Mario game when I was like in diapers. I've never played another Mario game. I just grew up. Whenever I was 4, I believe we got a PlayStation 1 and then PlayStation 2, 3, 4. Like I never owned any Nintendo consoles except the NES as a kid. So I just have no knowledge of Mario whatsoever.
Okay. So this direct for you, did it feel like it was just kind of a lot of like over your head? Not in the sense of not knowing about games, but because we had Super Mario RPG remake. We have the big one at the end, which was Super Mario Brothers Wonder, which is a whole new 2D Mario game, which I couldn't be more excited for since I played this game with my wife. You have a Princess Peach game, which is going to be, they didn't show much, but it's going to be seemingly a 2D ish game. Then you have Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon from the 3DS. That's getting like a visual kind of upgrade and brought to Switch, which I'm pumped about. Luigi's Mansion 3 was phenomenal. So you just had these like big tentpole character games from Nintendo that they really had a lot of confidence with. What was I going to ask you about that? I guess go ahead.
Yeah, you were gonna say, since I don't have the Mario love, like where
Yeah,
did I land on it? I think
right.
I'm someone like I really like getting excited for other people. Like I like seeing things that I know people like. If a Bloodborne remaster pops up, like it's something that I'm actually wanting to see pop up because I know people want it so bad. I have no interest in it whatsoever. But like I like feeling the energy in the games community of people just being happy about things, because there's so much negativity. It's like I love just communal discussions and good positive vibes after a showcase. But I will say Luigi's Mansion 3, I played a little bit of that on the Switch and really, really enjoyed that. So the remaster or whatever of the 3DS game. 3DS
Mm-hmm.
game? Correct?
Yeah, it's not really a remaster. They're just like they're literally just like porting it over, but like
Mm,
kind of up. Again, they only showed like 20 seconds.
yeah.
From what it sounds like, it's not going to be like a really remake or even a remaster, but just a port with maybe a few tweaks since it's not obviously on the 3DS anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but that's cool that you like the third one a little bit, even though you sold your Switch and can't play anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like it's the thing where maybe one day I wouldn't doubt if I go back one day, years and years from now, and then buy it again. And then, I'm always, I've done that my whole life, which, as a kid, I did it out of necessity, where it's like you're taking the PS2 to GameStop because you want the PS3 and stuff. But yeah, man, it looked that it was a really, really good showcase. What else stood out for you? What anything in particular that really was like big kind of eye-catching drops, eye-catching announcements?
So the Penny, 3D platforming one, as you had already mentioned, that looks phenomenal. For me, all the rest of the announcements, either A, we've already heard about, Sonic Superstars, the wind was out of the sails on that. We already knew about that because of the other showcases. There was like a Persona Tactics game. I could care less. I'm not a Persona guy. Are you a Persona guy? Have you played the Persona games? No. Okay.
Actually, that's a
Okay.
spoiler for later.
Oh, I mean, we won't talk
Yeah.
about that then. There was just a lot of like fine experiences that looked okay, but I think for me, the whole show stood up on the Super Mario RPG, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, which for me, I'm just beyond thrilled, and then the Princess Peach and Luigi's Mansion game. I think for those that got me so excited to be like, okay, maybe I'll have a reason to continue to play the Switch because there's these great tentpole titles seemingly coming back out. Although I will say the one thing I was super duper hoping for, I'm not a well, mini spoiler alert, I'm not a current Zelda fan. We'll get to that, but I love Wind Waker, and I just kept hoping at some point in this direct that they were going to show that they're bringing the Wind Waker HD from the Wii U to the Nintendo Switch because it should be on here now because no one really plays a Wii U or has one much anymore. So I was hoping for that, but beyond that, all of the Mario and Pals games, it was a huge, exciting show for me personally. And to your point, I think you made a good point. It shows that a Switch 2 or whatever they're going to call it, Super Switch, whatever, probably isn't going to be right away, right? Because
No.
a lot of these games were end of this year, 2023, or into the spring or first quarter of 2024, right?
Yeah, yeah, there were some 2024
Yeah.
announcements in there.
So when do you even think if they were going to do an X1 eventually, when do you even think that that would theoretically come then based on this direct? Oh, we also had Pikmin 4. I could care less about that, but hey, it looks kind of cute.
Yeah. I'm gonna give a quick shout out and I'm gonna hit your question. Myth Force looked fantastic. The cartoony, cartoony first person melee game. First person melee is really hard to get right, but the
Yeah.
vibe, the art style, fantastic. PS4, PS5, Xbox, Switch later this year. But to your question,
Good shout out.
when the Switch 2 or whatever they end up calling it, I think it gets announced holiday 2024, comes out mid to late 2025.
So you think we got a couple years still with the Switch? Okay.
Yeah, because like I don't think you're gonna launch or announce games for 2024 and then you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
you then abandon the platform less than a year later. It just that seems. I mean, that wouldn't be totally a total anomaly, but I don't know. That's the prediction I'm going to throw at the wall there.
It seems like a good solid prediction based on what you said. Okay, well, I guess we'll see what go ahead.
And it's like, how do you like, because that's the thing with the PlayStation 2 as well. Like God of War 2 came out in 2006 or 7,
Okay.
and it was only on PlayStation 2, and we were already, a year or two into the PlayStation 3 life cycle. So there
Mhm.
are those weird anomalies that's like, okay, yeah, we're just abandoning this platform of 100 plus million players and then going on to the Switch too, but maybe there'll be some kind of weird things like a God of War 2 style game that's still on the Switch exclusively, even though the Switch 2 is I don't know. And I'm sure they'll have a lot of backwards compatibility and stuff going on. So it's going to be interesting to see when that does pop up though, for sure, because that platform, the Switch is just it's a juggernaut unlike really any other.
It is. Yeah, you're right. I mean, up there with the Wii, how that took off in popularity. But you can't deny, and this isn't new information. Again, every channel's talked about this. You can't deny that the Switch is showing its age dramatically. Like the Pokemon games, all these things. I'm like, this just looks like garbage. Like, I mean, that's not to say the gameplay. Well, maybe in Pokemon's case, Violet and Scarlet, but like the games just look. So many of them just look so bad at this point.
Yeah.
But again, I know fidelity isn't for everyone. Like that's not a big deal for everyone. But at some point, and Nintendo's never really cared about that. But you can really see it now, right? In a lot of the games, unless they're the specific Nintendo ones, like Super Mario RPG, where they have that Nintendo finesse to just utilize the power, where you can't see the cracks. A lot of the other things, you can be like, okay, this is starting to look pretty dicey now.
Totally, man. I completely agree. But yeah, good showcase. Good director. Great way to close out this little E3 season for sure.
Well, I do you have any other things about the direct? I don't have much else beyond what we talked about. So should we hop on to what we're playing?
Yeah, buddy. So
Yeah, keep smoothing.
16 on 16, baby. How we feeling? Final Fantasy 16 has arrived. And I am it's all I've been doing. It's all I've been doing, Jeffrey. I just don't put this thing down. Played it till like 2 in the morning last night. Played it till 2 in the morning the night before. I'm getting on at 7 p.m. playing it until 2 a.m. Like it's just it's consuming my life, man. I don't know how far in. I'm very far into
Okay.
this game, like way further than I should be into this game. I haven't had something suck me in like this since, well, probably since Jedi Survivor and Hogwarts Legacy. It's just a crazy year. Dude, it's
So
such a
3 months ago.
crazy
Okay.
year.
So just a few months ago.
But it's so rare that these type of it's so rare that I get hooked into something like this anymore. And it's happened 3 times in this 1 year, dude. Like,
So give us
what?
the bread and butter. What I know you were excited for this. People that have watched the show know what really what's hooked you to it. Like what's made the thing where you're like, I'm just gonna play for 5 hours and just like not let like just let time fly away. What is it about it? I want to know, like, give us your take on what's made you connect to it. What aspects? what about variety? Just I want to know all about like your excitement for it, because I haven't played anything beyond a couple hours of the demo. So this is exciting to hear your excitement for it. So tell
So
us.
okay, so I'll say this: the demo, the demo is just the first couple hours of the game, correct?
I don't know. I've only put a couple hours in. It hasn't hooked. I like it, but it hasn't hooked me. So
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the demo is the first couple hours of the game,
okay.
and I was like hooked to that story. But where that story goes from there is so much cooler. And I'm just so here's the thing. It is a game made for me. I am a humongous character action guy. I love Devil May Cry, God of War, Bayonetta. And the best quote I heard about Final Fantasy 16 came from Jacob Geller from MinMax. He
Okay.
says it's Bayonetta with a $200 million budget, I believe is his quote. That sums up exactly what this is to me. It is like a style of game, a style of a genre that I loved so much, but given just an infinite budget. And also, it's not like bloated at all. There's not,
Hmm.
I will say the side quests kind of suck. The ones that have like a plus above the character's head are really cool, but the main, like, kind of, or the basic side quests, they kind of suck. I quit doing those after a few hours. Like, I'm not doing that, but I do all the ones with the plus. But the, it, it, it's so much more linear than I expected. I thought this was
Hmm.
going to be this big sprawling world where I can kind of go everywhere and do it. And like, I love those games, Hogwarts Legacy and games like that. But this is like pretty tightly guiding you down specific corridors to get to the next big story moment. And
Hmm.
those big story moments, like this game might be 60% cutscenes.
Oh
And
wow.
I know some people hate that. And I can kind of hate that at times too. Metal Gear Solid 4 didn't click with me because of that one reason. But I'm so into what they're telling me here with this story of Clive kind of finding himself, the internal struggles that he is facing, the whole dynamic with his family, and no spoilers or anything, but just the political intrigue that's going on there with the different ruling factions and the battles. It's this Game of Thrones
Hmm.
epic in video game form. And golly, man, the combat is just so fun, so consistently fun to me. And you're constantly, I shouldn't say constantly. Here's the thing. Here's a really weird thing. I've
Okay.
never felt I've never felt so connected to a character getting a new set of powers. I'll just say
Hmm.
that. And I don't know, there's like a responsibility that you're wielding with these powers because of the way that you get them and the connection that you have to those powers. It's so cool, man. It's so freaking cool.
I love your excitement for it, and just like what you alluded to, a few minutes ago, of just watching other people's excitement about a game like that can be half the fun, because even if you don't necessarily care as much or are as excited in the zeitgeist of it, to watch someone else in the zeitgeist of it is pretty special. So give us, I mean, I know you touched on a little bit about the story. You don't have to spoil anything. I mean, if you want to, that's fine. But give like the elevator pitch of the story. I know that's probably way too hard to do in a
No.
giant JRPG, but what's the elevator pitch of like, why should you care about this story from your experience? If you could, because I want to understand that as well.
Yeah, so I'll give a very basic pitch for it without spoiling anything, because I know that this is like one of the stories of the year that people are like really wanting to go into without any spoilers, go into blind. So I'll say this.
Okay.
Clive, the main character that you play as, he's born into royalty, but he himself isn't necessarily looked at as royalty because his little brother is looked at as royalty because his little brother has a power inside of him that Clive might not have. Well, yeah. Well, I'm gonna leave that there for that part.
Okay.
But it's this coming of age story at the beginning of Clive kind of fitting his role into being the protector, the shield bearer of his brother. His whole entire goal is just to protect his brother because his little brother, is looked at as royalty, very very special. Like you have to protect him because we're heading off to war, and his little brother is crucial to
Okay.
to winning this war. And then no spoilers for what happens, but it branches so much bigger than that. And it's a journey all about Clive understanding some of the things that took place and realizing that he has to battle himself internally to get through some of his like depressive struggles that he is going through and finding out the truth of what really took place. And yeah, and then it just has the political intrigue on the side with the different ruling factions, and it's so dark, dude. There's so much just like factions going in and slaughtering entire villages, hanging up the branded. It's just like specific, like the people they have like a little branded logo on their
Brandon?
face. Yeah. And they hang them up on these poles and like torture them. And it's just like a stake driven in the ground to show that like this is what happens to Branded in this territory. So it's just you're so invested in what's going on because it's straight up dark. Like the whole thing is straight up dark. And it's this is my style of story. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
this M-rated, very mature hacking and slashing. Like it totally connects with me.
Okay, so I'm gonna like pick your brain. All right, again, you don't have,
Yeah.
of course, because I want to peel back the layers of because this is arguably the biggest exciting game, obviously, and but like that we'll probably be talking about because I can't compete with this. But I want to know in terms of how much you press into variety. That's you love, as you've stated a million times, gameplay variety. So if you had to break apart the gameplay variety again, without I guess spoiling if there's aspects that were surprise to you, how do you break apart this game is like here's why I love it because of this variety, like there's this and this. Again, maybe don't spoil it if there's things that you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't expect to have that. But how does
Yeah.
that break apart into variety for you that keeps you hooked beyond the story, obviously, which sounds really really cool.
It's so tough, man, because when I was capturing gameplay for it, I was so bummed capturing gameplay because I was like, I'm capturing the most boring parts of this game to not spoil it for people. And there does come a point, maybe we can have this discussion at a later time. Like, when are spoilers more beneficial than hurtful to a game? Because what I want to talk about with this game is such a humongous spoiler, but it's the best part of the game by far. But I'll
Is that
just
wait, is that a gameplay thing?
yes.
Okay, all right. You don't have to say anymore. I'm just curious if that was gameplay or narrative. Okay.
Yeah, it's a gameplay thing. Well,
Okay.
but the narrative, it would be wait, no, no. Hold up. I can talk about this. I just don't have to I don't have to say why because I remember me
Okay.
and you talking about the icon abilities. That they talked about that, didn't they?
That's like been a heavily pushed thing in marketing. So that's not that
Right.
that's literally been like that was a part of the demo. You can choose to do the specific like an icon section. So none of that's a spoiler. That's literally their marketing spiel.
Yeah,
Was
so
like, hey, you can do these big kaiju type, battles or whatever.
I won't get into why, who, how it comes out in the story,
Okay.
but those moments, man, they play out so cool. And at first it's just like, okay, you're controlling this kaiju and you can dodge and shoot these fire blasts, and it's like very on rails and simple. And I was like, oh man, is that all this is going to be? No, it is not all this is going to be. It evolves into, there was one fight that I got into specifically where this dude is raining down shots and I'm having to evade, and you can hold circle and do like this rapid evasion tactic thing. And then he's sending out these walls of flames and there's like this one opening and you're having to bob and weave your kaiju to get into this one lane so that you don't get just totally blasted by this oncoming wave of fire, whatever the hell it was, this wall of just carnage that you're having to avoid with your icon character. And that is the thing, those moments when they happen, and they don't overuse them, and that's such a key thing when
Yeah.
they happen in the story. It is like digging down and you have to like pull, like it almost feels Dragon Ball Z-esque, going into that Super Saiyan mode. It's like you can only go up to the max so many times and it's going to leave you totally spent, but you have to at certain moments you have to bring it out. And that's the thing that separates this game, because the variety with the combat, I'll say it's fairly simple, but the more powers you get, it adds more variety to the game as well. Where,
Okay.
it's your simple kind of elemental attacks, your wind, your fire, your electric damage and stuff. But you're just constant, every button, every button on that controller, you're hitting all of them, man. And so it's doing that thing with my brain where I'm like, ooh, 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 new. And I'm just
Your little goblin brain. It's like, yes.
yeah. I think I talked with you about this before, but someone said that this is for the crackhead generation. This is Final Fantasy for the crackhead generation, the ADD brains. And it's like, yes, this is for my generation who's like want to be just constantly mashing buttons. Like it totally clicks for someone like me. And the different abilities you get are really, really cool. And the location variety. You're seeing the scale of this game at times is like dumbfounding to think that Square Enix put this much money into a Final Fantasy game, because Final Fantasy games, don't beat me up, comments, but they don't sell all that well. They sell.
Is that true?
Yeah, they sell like 6-7 million copies.
Okay.
I didn't
realize that.
I think the highest selling might be 10 at 20 million. I believe the highest selling Final Fantasy game ever is at 20 million copies. And to put it in perspective, The Witcher 3 is at like, I think 50 or 60 million.
Interesting.
And you would never think that.
Right. Well, especially based on the budgetary, if you're saying that from the location and the set pieces and the battles and the length and the variety and the star power behind like the people, that's funny because the guy's name, Clive, is Ben Starr. That's like the actor's name. But so in terms of like the comment, again, I don't want this to sound reductive, but if you had to, again, for someone that either A, hasn't played the demo, or doesn't have a PlayStation 5, or is just like, I don't care about Final Fantasy. If you had to compare, you kind of alluded to this, I guess, what games, if you can think of any, would you kind of compare the combat to? I know there's going to be no direct correlation, but if you had to be like, here's what it's kind of like.
No, there is. It's
okay. So what is it then?
It's a less sophisticated Devil May Cry or a less sophisticated Bayonetta. The combat is, it's straight up character action Bayonetta, Devil May Cry. 100%. It's not as in depth from what I've all that I have right now are 3 powers. I know I'm going to get more because of the way that the story's going, but all I have now are 3 different powers that I can swap in between. There's an upgrade tree that you can introduce like some new mechanics, like holding triangle to do a more powerful blast, holding square to do to light your sword on fire and do like inflict more damage. So there's little mechanical tweaks that you can make throughout the upgrade tree, but it's fairly simple hacking and slashing, and it doesn't really, at this point, I'll say, like, I think that Bayonetta is wildly underrated for how versatile that combat system can be once you really start getting into the flow with things and upgrading. I don't think from what I've played so far, it's quite that versatile. But it's just like, Bayonetta and Devil May Cry, I've never seen a story or a budget, anything like this.
That's good to know. It's funny. I would have never, again, I mean, I've played the demo, but like I would have never thought a Final Fantasy game would ever be compared, again, in terms of like the combat, not the other aspects, to a Devil May Cry or Bayonetta. It just, and maybe a lot of people will hate that, obviously, because of the classic turn-based from the days gone by, but it's just so crazy as someone that's grew up with games to hear that, you know what I mean? Like I kind of felt that playing the demo, but hearing you say that throughout the whole experience that you've enjoyed so far, it's pretty crazy. I have a side question. This is much more like scaled down question, but it's something for me because I love a good RPG, a good JRPG. Not as much time to play them anymore, but I love when there's great party, character party, like dialogue and banter and stuff like that. Games like the Shadow Hearts series from way back in the day. The Tales RPGs have like these little vignettes where you get to know the characters in relation to each other. The Xenoblade games, Xenoblade 2 at least kind of did that. So how does this game handle, or does it even handle, like great little like fun moments of like party character interaction? That can be a big thing for, I think, JRPG people, from what I know at least.
Yeah.
Does this have it?
Yeah, it does. But what I'll say, and I'm at a point where, so and it's from my experience so far, I don't know if this branches out further, but it's not like this choice of bringing different people with you in your party. It kind of sets up, like I said, this feels like a very linear, intentional narrative. And like the people that you have in your party with you, I think need to be there for the big story moments. So they don't allow you to kind of bring in, swap out new people on the fly, but you do get moments that bring new companions, new people into your party, and then you go out on quests with them that are specific for them. Like little, well, no, this is a main quest. One that I just had was a humongous like little story pivot that I was not expecting at all. And that character came into my party and he has a huge role in this little segment. And it was only like a 30-minute, 25-minute mission, but he was like integral to it. So it's for what they're doing with the companions, it feels a lot more specific. The missions feel specifically tailored to them, opposed to this, okay, you can bring anyone with you anywhere and then just have like little banter back and forth. But the characters that you bring with you, they're going to be there for a reason.
Nice. It's so cool just out hearing your excitement for this. I have one last question I want to ask you, and I think you may have alluded to this with the game somewhat being more linear than you thought. Is this an open world / open zone game like Final Fantasy 15 was?
I never played Final Fantasy 15, but no, this
Okay,
is linear.
that's crazy.
It's so here's the thing. I've been to 3 sections that are open, and whenever I go off and explore, this is something I will say is a hindrance or a knock against the game, is that usually when I go off and explore, I feel like I just wasted my time.
Okay.
It wants you to follow those quest markers and get to the next big thing. This is a narrative juggernaut. I don't think this game really wants you to do anything but engage in the combat and experience this narrative, because it is like epic level storytelling. But
Wow.
the bigger worlds I actually think are the worst part of the game. Whenever you're just going down the corridors, it feels so intentionally crafted, and then when they open it up, it almost feels like just kind of bigger, almost, it's not procedurally generated, but it feels like bigger procedurally generated locations just
Right.
for the sake of having them.
Interesting. Okay. So it's almost like they didn't have the confidence in that section and they wanted to just stick with the more linear, but some people are going to be so upset by that, right? Because I feel like hearing linear now is a negative thing when in reality that can almost be, depending on the story and the characters, can almost be a more positive thing, you know? And for me, like as someone that's pretty disenchanted with most open world games and just not having the time, hearing that this focuses more on linear pathways and things actually makes me want to play it more because I just don't want to be filled out where I have to explore everywhere, if that makes sense.
Let me
So
tell you this, Jeffrey. This is how crazy this juggernaut of a story is. I have been completely going like the linear paths and only doing the side quests that have the plus marker above the character's head to let me know it's important. I am I think I have, because I looked at a playthrough on YouTube. I think I have 30 hours left, and I've been playing this thing like, I mean, I've been playing this thing like a maniac, dude. I've been waking up early to play it, going to bed late to play it. Like I've been playing this like a maniac since Thursday. What? It's today's Sunday, so
yeah.
I'm 15 hours in, and I have 30 left to
Wow.
go. So it's a 45-hour linear game if you don't do the exploration and stuff. So like, well, I shouldn't say that, because I don't really know. I just know where I'm at versus the amount of time left on that playthrough. There's 30 more hours, but they might have went off and did some side content. So I don't really know how, but like I'm not even halfway through it, and I'm 15 hours in. So it's a big linear kind of expansive storyline going on here.
That's awesome, man. I love hearing this. And it was funny when I saw the games, because we have like a little sheet we do behind the scenes of what we're doing. When I saw your list of what we're playing was very small, I'm like, either A, he hasn't played games, or B, he's really dedicated to one of these games. And clearly we already know it was this one sucking up your time, which nothing beats that feeling, because you might think you're going to get sucked into a game and then you're not, right? Or you just have no intentions of getting sucked in, maybe like this, and then you just can't stop playing. I feel like nothing really beats that feeling because it doesn't come along all that often, especially when it's a meaty game that you know is just going to take you a while. Like nothing beats that feeling. And for me, that was Hogwarts Legacy. Like I didn't, just where you can't stop, you just want to keep on experiencing it. So it's cool to hear 16 is doing that for you, and clearly other people too. So
Yeah, and look, I'm not that type of gamer. I am the Pavlovian. Like I have that. I want to go here. I want to go here. I want to go here. Do this. Do this. What's that smell? What's that smell? Like I don't stop. My brain just keeps going all over the place. So like for this to really pull me in, like this has only happened 2018 it happened with Red Dead Redemption 2. 20 uh dude, I think okay, Lost Judgment 2021, and then Jedi Survivor, Hogwarts Legacy, and Final Fantasy 16. Since 2018, those are the only games that have really done this for me. So it's a great damn time to be a gamer in 2023. I'll say that for sure,
That
man.
3 games in what, 6, we're almost at July. Like that's insane, right? And that's not even including like the myriad other just tiny game experiences or indie games that we've enjoyed as well. Like that's pretty phenomenal when you think about that. It's so easy to complain about the state of gaming, and rightfully so in a lot of aspects. But like when you have games like this coming out, it's yeah, it's exciting, man.
Dude, and like Dredge and Killer Frequency, and the, like you said, the indies have been hitting it out of the park too. It's just it is really a it's a great time to be and we got Starfield and Spider-Man 2, and like it's just, yeah, it's a great time to be a gamer. But off of Final Fantasy 16, man, I have a lot of questions about one game in particular that you were playing, one that
Okay.
I thought about buying, but it just came out in a really rough time. And that is Crash Team Race Rumble. Whoa. CT, come on, man, you got to
Clearly very memorable. You can remember the name.
yeah, you got to throw a different name in there. CTR, that's already been done.
That's true. I didn't think
So
about that.
what's your kind of takeaway with this? How much have you played of it? How are you digging it? What's the vibe with CTR Part 2?
Yeah, it's not racing at all. So Crash Team Rumble, yeah, I'll be honest, I'm probably a big problem of the whole live service and those types of games. I do just enjoy a lot of those games, because for me to sit down and play like a story thing, I just don't either have as much time or energy or patience. So for me at night, when I have like an hour to play, diving into a multiplayer game or a live service game, and you'll see that's kind of indicative of some of the games I played this week. I just didn't have the mindset to go into a story just because of life things. So Crash Team Rumble is a Crash Bandicoot multiplayer only game. Now that's going to turn a lot of people off, but this one's been on my radar for a long time. So this is a Crash game for all intents and purposes, with the Crash music, Crash look, Crash moves, and everything like that, and Crash pals, all of them. But you basically play as 2 teams. I think it's 4-on-4, and essentially the whole goal of each match, again, multiplayer, online only. I mean, there is bots, but is to basically get as many Wumpa fruits and put them in your little goal areas. That's it. That's the game. So that sounds really reductive, but basically it ends up being this really frenetic party game where you have different roles. So like Crash is a scorer. So his goal and like aim is to get as many Wumpa fruit, and he gets more points when he brings those to the goal. Then you have other like Coco. Hers is like to be a I forgot the name, but like there's these like specific points on each of the cool and colorful maps where they're like bonus zones. If you light up all the bonus zones, then you get more Wumpa fruit per deposit. So like that character's focus is that. But then you have blockers. So like the blocker ones, like Dingo Dial or whatever, they can like block and you have more powerful attacks. And it's essentially like a class-based multiplayer score fest. It's going to be a huge turnoff for people that just want more single player Crash, and I get that, but the charm is here in spades. It's from Toys for Bob, so they are obviously very well versed in like the redos of all the Crash and Spyro and whatever games they've put their hands on. But it's a multiplayer game. There's a battle pass, there's unlockables, there's cosmetics, and that stuff sure can be a turnoff. But the actual moment to moment gameplay is lighthearted. It's fun. Matches are like 10 minutes, if not shorter. And you're just collecting fruit. You're smashing each other up. It's kind of like Super Smash Bros. Meets a scoring game. And I'll be honest, I don't know if I'll stick with it forever, because
Yeah.
people tend to just like stick to this one role and they just kind of like do the same thing over and over, which can be kind of annoying, but it's fun and lighthearted. I don't have much more to say about it than that. It's fun and lighthearted. It's $30. I'm having a good time with it when I have 20 minutes.
Yeah, you answered all of my questions. I'll
Okay,
literally
bye.
I'll list off the questions that I had. I said how live servicey is it, meaning the battle passes and all the loot and unlockables and purchase monetizable content inside the game. So you answered that. I had, is there any local multiplayer? You answered that. And then I said, is it possible to just hop on and have fun for a couple minutes on these online matches? And you answered that. It's about 10 minutes per match. The only thing I would
Yeah.
have And so there's no story content whatsoever inside the game.
No, it's pure multiplayer.
Okay.
That's literally all it is. So like any game like that, it's going to the player base. The player base is strong right now. Like finding a match is really easy. There's cross play and all that jazz. But to be honest, this isn't a free to play game. You still have to buy
Yeah.
into it. It's easy to buy into because it's a crash game and it's made with love. Like it's polished to a T. I haven't noticed any issues, no frame issues and bugs and glitches and the net code for connecting to matches. Everything is spot on and solid. But it's Activision publishing it. So my fear is right now there's no store. Right now it's like, yeah, there's the battle pass and there's that goodies, but there's like no store. You can't really spend real. I don't think you can spend any real world money apart from buying the game.
Oh,
However,
wow.
However, that's a huge caveat because it's Activision. They did the same thing to an extent with the Crash Team Racing Nitro, the redo of the Crash one, where eventually they added in real world money and a store and all that jazz. This already has a battle pass and seasons, all that stuff that I'm personally fine with. I enjoy that because it keeps the game fresh. I don't see this game having a player base for all that long. It's really fun and I'm enjoying it, but I just don't see it because there's still a buy-in. It's not a free to play. You still have to buy in to get the experience, and people will because it's Crash and it's worth the money. But it's like a live service pay game, and there's only one mode as of right now. Like it's that mode, and it's a lot of fun, but there's just not much variety beyond that. So I don't think I'll probably play it more than a few months. Um,
Yeah.
but for 20 minutes, half hour, it's a good little time. So
Yeah, it's a bummer to me that that's not more common in this live service or in this always online multiplayer. It's a bummer to me that there's not more games that are just like, okay, pay your $30 at the door and here's your game. Like it sucks that everything has to live forever and forever and forever and be constantly monetized. And like I just think it's cool like I don't know if I'll check this out. The thing for you have to buy two discs or two copies to play with someone that right? Like you can't there's not like a code or anything like that, is there, that you can give to a buddy?
I don't know, and I actually don't know, and this is just my ignorance because I don't really play much local co-op. I don't play much local multiplayer, I should say. I don't even know if this, and again, I don't really, I just don't know. I don't know if this has
Yeah.
local multiplayer.
I'll
I
look it up
think
real
it's
quick.
just online only, but then you can do like a match with bots on your team and their team. You'd have to look it up. I actually don't know if it has local multiplayer. I don't think it does. But as I was logging into this game a couple of times this last week, all I kept being reminded of was our discussion of last week about physical and digital. Because every time the menu popped up and said logging into online services, all I kept thinking about was at some point this game will just be dead and there's
Dead.
nothing to do with it. In 10 years you can't play Crash Team Rumble unless like modders, like, and that is a huge, obviously it's just a bummer. So to your
Yeah.
point about it's a digital, even if this was physical, at some point the servers will shut down, you just can't play it, which is always a bummer. So
Yeah, and that's a purchase that you have that'll be void. Yeah, so it says here Crash Team Rumble does not offer a split screen couch co-op experience and is primarily a 4v4 online multiplayer game. So,
So there you go. To me, it's
yeah.
worth it. It's worth to me. Again, I know we've talked about a lot of negative. To me, the game is great. It's worth it right now. It's worth it on a sale. I just don't know how long it'll last. There's just no way of knowing. You can't compete with Warzone. You can't compete with Apex. You can't compete with Fortnite and Rocket League. Like you just can't. And like unless something does something completely different at some point, even with the Crash name behind it, it's going to die out. And I just don't see this game lasting more than a year, but I really like it for now. So I would say if you
Yeah.
want like a fun little multiplayer game to jump into and you love the Crash feel, it's there in spades and it's really polished. So I'm glad that they really polished it to a T. So
Yeah, well, I'm gonna let you go ahead and continue on. I really the only other thing I've been playing is Resident Evil Revelations. I finished that up. Incredibly challenging final boss. I don't know. I don't remember having that degree of challenge with it when I played it the first time, but really, really tough, really annoying. The entirety of the rest of the game is pretty, so well, let me say, playing on the normal difficulty. I'm sure people playing on super hardcore and all that, it's more challenging, but just playing on normal difficulty, man, it's a breeze to get through most of it. And then you hit that final boss, and if you don't have a lot of weaponry stored up and a lot of ammunition for your magnum and a lot of ammunition for your more powerful weapons, it's challenging. And I struggle with that thing. It took me legitimately like an hour to just beat that final boss, and the rest of the game probably got through it in 7 hours. So it was a bit annoying, but overall the quality of the game is super 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 high. It's like legitimately one of the best Resident Evil games ever made. We talked about it last week.
Wow.
That's pretty much all I have to say on it, man.
So did you feel like that difficulty spike with the boss at the end? Because I haven't finished the first one yet. Did it feel like it was just an unnecessary difficult spike just
Yeah.
to kind of pad it out to be like, well, you get her. I guess you should just get stronger. I know you can't like level up, but
Yeah.
does it feel like it was unnecessary?
Yeah, it was weird. It was just like it'd be so easy if the camera was better. Like the it turns like so actiony and like there's no real thought behind it. It's just okay, unload a clip into this glowing orb inside of this monster's chest. And if you happen to angle it perfectly and you got a super powered shotgun that has a extended magazine and it rapid reload, you have all the upgrades there, you just get it done real quick. But if you run out of ammunition there, you're having to go. They have like a little storage box in the room, so you can go back to the storage box, unequip certain upgrades for one weapon, put it back to the other, and then try to do the same thing with a different style of weapon, but with that same setup of rapid fire, high powered, extended clip type weapons. But yeah, it's just it's this glowing orb that you have to shoot, and he's totally impervious to any sort of damage elsewhere. And
Okay.
he spawns multiple other enemies that are exact replicas of him charging at you, but there's only one real one, and he has like this purple glow coming out of him that lets you know that that's the real one. So
Okay.
it takes a second to get used to that, and then he does this move where he like slams down on top of you like this rapid slam move, and say you're here
Mm-hmm.
and he's like behind you here. He'll angle up this way and it'll look like he's going to miss you, and then right as he's about to slam down, he spins and just does a rapid hit, and it's just like it seems so unnecessary for a game that otherwise had such a high quality bar across the board. And it's not like one of those get good things. It's just it's a dumb boss fight that doesn't fit in the grand scheme of the rest of that game, in my opinion.
I'm glad to know that you enjoyed the rest of it despite that. I mean, it's a bummer to wrap up that way, but it sounds like the rest as an experience, 7 hour experience was pretty solid to keep it through, which is good.
Yeah, and you can't drop the difficulty. Like, so if you start the game, like I started it on normal, I can't like drop it down to easy just to get through that final boss. It's so annoying, so annoying.
Yeah.
Because I can't play Resident Evil games on easy. Like it's just I've been playing them so long. Like I just it would be it would be so boring to me. But I don't want to something like that. I don't want to spend an hour on it. I'd happily just crank it down to easy just to get through it. It's
Yeah.
just weird. But yeah,
Well,
that's my thoughts.
it's good thoughts. Well, I'll run through some of these real quick. I still have four more. I'm not going to spend much time on a few of these just because I'm excited for our community chosen subject is. That's going to be real spicy, and I'm pumped for that. So, real quick, two more live service things. So, I've been playing Dead by Daylight since it came out. Dead by Daylight's been running for 7 years now plus, which is insane to think about that. So for anyone that for some reason doesn't know, Dead by Daylight's the asymmetrical horror themed pantheon of horror things. Nicolas Cage is coming to it. I honestly I've jumped off and on that game for years, but I adore it as a horror person. It's just such a fun moment to moment gameplay. They have like a seventh anniversary like Masquerade, Twisted Masquerade event, and it's just really spiced up the game. But I want to applaud Behavior Interactive, who makes this game, because they constantly manage to find new ways to like support this game and make it exciting if you're a horror multiplayer person. I've been diving into that. It's just been a good time. The other one real quick, because I think is a little interesting. So there's the upcoming Ubisoft online shooter X Defiant, which is a stupid name. So X Defiant surprisingly put out like this open, they call it an open session, but it's an open beta basically few days ago at the time of recording. I didn't expect that. I really didn't have any interest in the game because I got burned out on Call of Duty years ago. I played it. It feels like a generic Call of Duty. That's it. It feels like generic Call of Duty. And the open beta was basically you can try some operators, and basically they have operators from like Watch Dogs 2 and Far Cry and like Splinter Cell. It's such a weird mashup. It's going to be funny if they put like Rayman in there one day. but
Yeah.
but the open beta for X Defiant was literally the most underwhelming, generic Call of Duty feeling game. Like you can tell they're trying so hard to be the next that. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't like anything like that, but it just, I'm like, I've played a billion games like this before. So much so that I ended up downloading like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 just to like even see how it even compared. And I'm like, these both just feel the same and kind of pointless. It was fine. It was okay. I only played it for like a couple hours and I'm like, I don't have any interest in this. Do you have any interest in even like a game like this?
No, but but I do have some questions.
Oh, that's fine. I didn't play that long, so please no, I don't have much answers. But
do you think this will have any legs at all? Do you think, because I know there's a lot of competition in this market. Do you foresee this being something that Ubisoft supports with, I know that they've canceled some service games here recently. Do you think this will be another one that bites the dust pretty quickly?
it's so hard to say because again, this was just an open session. They call it an open beta, but like even just the menus, like it just, here's what I'll say. The package doesn't feel confident.
Mm.
And again, it's not out yet, so it's going to be a free to play game whenever it comes out. But even just like this public beta, it just didn't feel confident. And like the menus just look boring. Like the way you can choose between, like, again, Splinter Cell and like, freaking, what I say, Far Cry, Watch Dogs, these different properties, the Division, it just felt so tacked on. And it just, you can tell they're trying to lean into like the Overwatch thing where you have like all these cool characters and then you get like these special moves. And it just comes across again, it's just kind of lackluster and generic. The gunplay feels like a less fun version of Call of Duty. It reminds me of like the old Call of Duty games, but like less fun. And so it's to answer your question, it's Ubisoft, so they'll pour a lot of money into it, but I can't see it taking players away from Call of Duty. And again, I'm not a Call of Duty person anymore. I don't think that's fun anymore, but I don't see it taking people from that. So it just feels so just generic. I don't know. It feels really weird. So
I don't even know how you compete with Call of Duty at this point. It's so ubiquitous to a point where it's like I I mean Call of Duty yearly sells what some of the greatest games of all time have ever sold. You know what I mean? You're talking about a game that yearly is if you pulled up the top 25 greatest selling games of all time, it's like 7 Call of Duties out of 25 games. It's crazy. Like, how do you, I don't know how, I don't even know why you would want to compete with that. I understand that the market's huge and maybe there can be some bleed off where you, a couple of disgruntled players you pull from the Call of Duty ecosystem into yours, but man, that seems like a tall task, but everybody wants a piece of that pie. But
yep.
I was the technical performance any decent for XDefiant?
It was fine. Again, there wasn't like issues per se. It looked like an Xbox One or even Xbox 360 game.
Oh wow.
It was, and again, not that fidelity is everything. It played fine, but everything just kind of felt like it's so, I can't think of the word I want to use, but it just looked dated.
Yeah.
And it felt generic and lackluster. And you can just tell, and I don't want to say this because I don't want to sound like mean to people that like are making games, because like they still make games and are trying, but
yeah,
it just doesn't feel necessary.
Well, the thing is like you're not being rude to them, because I think if I had to venture a guess, this seems to me like some high executive boardroom discussion more than like, oh, we're really passionate to go and make another one of these. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I would be willing to bet that a lot of people on that team, and I don't know this, but we're just some idiots on a podcast. We don't take our opinion to the bank, but I'd be willing to bet a lot of the developmental team was like, yeah, we agree.
Yeah, you're probably right. So I hope it gets some player base, but honestly, I'm just like, this just felt so pointless to have it. Yeah. The last two, which again, I'll fly through these. I jumped into the Haunted Mansion on PS2 again. We talked about it last week, and it just made me want to like have that like spooky vibe. So I've been playing a couple hours of that, which has been, it's just fun little retro Haunted Mansion goodness. And then one that is a surprise. I won't talk long on it. I want to hear if you've played it. So PS5 on like their premium, whatever, they just like had like 20 more games drop if you're a part of the premium tier or whatever tier it is. I don't know. And there was a game I downloaded called Solstice. Have you heard of Solstice? It looks like a Souls game. It's not, but have you heard of it? Solstice. It's like SOULI. However you spell Solstice. I don't know.
Talk to me about it. I'm going to pull up a trailer.
So Solstice was when I saw like them announce like the 20 games or whatever that they're adding on, you can download for free. I was like, okay, this looks like one of these like cool dark fantasy games, but I thought it was going to be a Souls-like game. And it's not. It's essentially a Devil May Cry game, which I did not expect, and that was a pleasant surprise. So it's like this dark fantasy, very very dark fantasy stories, like this character named Briar and her like sister, who's like an ethereal spirit named Lute. Maybe their names are backwards. I forgot. And you essentially explore this dark fantasy world. There's like it's very linear, but you can explore like kind of off the beaten path here and there. It feels like a traditional like Xbox 360, PS3 action game. It's not a Souls like at all, and that's what I thought it was going to be like because that's what it seemed to bill itself as. It
Yeah.
plays like Devil May Cry, so much so that you get like the little red things. You have like you're scored after each battle, and it's a
Nice.
delight. It's a pure delight. I am enjoying it so much so on PS5 that I pinned it, and I'm just going to keep going through that game. So,
Awesome.
have you heard of it or played it? Then
I thought this was a Souls game too. So
it's
I
not.
just, as soon as
No,
I saw the name, I checked out. I know that's bad, man, but I'm just like so over that entire trim. But yeah, I'm looking at it now, and I
no,
will say, even the trailer, like, I think they did a disadvantage to the game by it almost looks like a Souls game with the trailer.
yeah,
But no,
it's not at
yeah,
all.
I'm gonna grab this. I think they have a
Grab it.
physical copy of it too. I'm about to buy it right now.
It's really darn cool. It was one of those games that was such a pleasant surprise, right? When you download a game or buy a game and you're like, I don't know what to expect. I expected Souls like, just like you said, I expected Dark Fantasy World and just another game where you die endlessly. There's like five difficulties. There's all these accessibility settings. It's just all about quick, fun character action, linear, and it's such a delight. It's such a delight because not every game needs to be a Souls game, and I think you'll really dig it. It's really darn cool. It's really polished, really fast, hitting a million buttons at once for our goblin brains. Yeah, that's this game.
I'm buying it, dude. They got a copy right here, $12 on eBay.
Get it,
So
dude. You're gonna
I'm
love it.
getting it.
It's your kind of game based on everything you've said about Final Fantasy 16 and Devil May Cry and character fighting action games. This game is such a cool game. It's such a treat, and it was so unexpected. So I had to mention it here. I've only
I,
played like 2 hours, but it's really cool.
I'm grabbing that. Heck yeah, dude. I appreciate that because I would have never, ever, ever bought that because I thought it was a Souls game. And so yeah, I'm grabbing that bad boy. Good
Yeah,
shout out, man. I appreciate it.
yeah, that was on a whim. So that's all I got. I didn't want to spend too long on those because I know we got a big upcoming topic. But was that?
Yeah.
I think that's everything we played pretty much then, right?
Yeah, that's everything. That is everything we have played, my friend. And now
Oh boy.
I do want to go ahead and kind of update the community on our we're trying to shorten up the shows a little bit. We love rambling for 2-3 hours and then discussing everything under the sun, but I think it'll be beneficial to everybody if we shorten up these shows a little bit here. And uh, just on a personal note, not going to go into any specifics, but there's some kind of big things percolating in my life that I need to prioritize right now. So we're going to try to trim up these shows a little bit. And so we're going to, we'll still have fun topics. We'll still do the monthly most anticipated games and maybe continue the draft segment with that and some other maybe random fantasy drafts popping up here and there. But the I do have an idea for the yearly thing. We're not going to do it here on the show, but I have an idea for how because I want to finish that up. I want to finish that up and do my top 100 games of all time. But I have a different idea of how I'm going to spin that. It's not going to be
Okay.
on this show, but stay tuned. Stay tuned. I'm not abandoning you. I'm not abandoning you. Abandoning you on that topic. I do have an idea for it. I think you guys will really like what we end up doing with that there. And with the console war segment, like I said, we're just going to kind of remove that part of it and then just take the ideas and put them into shows, because we're going to have shows where we don't have a big Final Fantasy 16 to talk about. And then that'll be the week where we bring in a big topic like a drafting the greatest PlayStation 2 games of all time and like just silly fun stuff like that. I don't know if that'll be one we use, but we're going to come up with fun topics that will still be a fun, unique, different show, but we're going to try to kind of, make it a little less long as I sit here and rant for 10 minutes.
But yep, that's exactly, and that kind of leads us into, we want to focus a lot on the community poll that we
Yes.
do, which again, Brandon's already done since, for a long time, but we really want to focus on making that. If you guys want to hear about a thing, we'll do our best to cover it, even if we're not always versed in it. This one though, I got to say, when I gave this idea to you and put it out there, Brandon and I had talked about this ahead of time. Essentially, it's basic, or what is our topic? It's universally praised games that we don't like. I'm going to go so
Yeah.
far as to say is despise, but
Oh no.
I have I am so excited to talk about this because I have 3 games that I just need somewhere to cathartically share how much I don't like them. And I know people are going to be angry and hate me, but to be honest, I don't care. You like what you want to like. It doesn't matter if I don't like it. I'm just a rando.
Yeah.
So what I'm curious is, I don't know how many you have or what games you have. I don't know if you know the ones I have, and I mean we kind of know, but
I think I know two of you. Yeah, I know. I'm for
okay.
sure I know two of them. I don't know what the third one will be, but I think I know. I think I know what two of them are going to be. You want me to kick off with my first one?
Yeah, because I want to mentally prepare on how to because I'm not going to really hold back because
Okay.
these games that I don't think are good and I'm tired of everyone praising them. So I think you're going to feel the same, but I don't know really what you have except for one that you spoiled. So you start us off. This is, I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
So I gotta preface before we jump into this. I don't really hate things all that often. Like I don't really, that's not a feeling that I feel too often. Like I might dislike something for a couple of reasons, but I can kind of identify that it's usually more a me thing than the game thing. But
Okay.
I'm
You're
not
taking
sure.
the wind out of my sails here. Okay.
I'm not trying to kneecap you. You do your thing. You go off. I'm happy to. I can't wait to hear your tangents, your rants. But the one I'm going to start off with, I'll go ahead and because I spoiled it earlier. Persona 5, checked it out. I jumped into it for a couple of hours, and I was just like, what am I doing here? What is going on with this game that's supposed to be, this like whatever 95 out of 100 on Metacritic? Like it didn't capture me in that regard where I was like blown away early on. And here's the thing. These humongous turn-based RPGs, it's going to be this comes back to it being a me thing. I can't commit 50, 100 plus hours to a turn-based game. I just can't do it. I understand the people who grew up with turn-based mechanics. They still love them. They still want them in games. They still, have that fondness for it. I can't do it, man. I can't commit 50 hours to just selecting different menu things, and we can maybe get into this more at a later time for genres we dislike, because I think that came in second place when we put that up. So I want to do at one point for
Okay.
our community poll, like round up a bunch of the second place votes and put them all into a poll and see out of like the second place winners what comes out victorious. But I'm not a turn-based guy, man. I'm just not a
Okay.
turn-based guy. I love the art style for Persona, and variety is something that I very, very much enjoy with video games. And this seems to be offering up a tremendous amount of variety. But for the little bit I played of it, and I didn't play a lot, so that's a big knock against me here. But I couldn't find that thing to kind of connect me to get me through to the 80, 100 plus hour finale of Persona 5.
That's fair. I guess I should have asked before we started. Should we allow space to ask each other questions, or do we
Yeah.
just want to go through them so we don't spend it too long on these?
No, let's run, man. Let's run. We're doing pretty good on recording time. It's only 3:17.
So with Persona 5, um, is it solely then because that is turn based?
I don't like we talked about this before as well. I don't really like school settings
Okay.
all that much. And that was a big thing to me. I don't like a lot of like kind of the anime tropes.
Mm.
I, I this is going to sound so disrespectful, and I don't mean it to, but I it seems like, okay, you're playing as these high school 18, 19, 17, 18-year-old kids, but then a lot of like the dialogue sounds like it's 12-year-olds. And I don't really connect with that. It puts me off. It makes me feel kind of, I don't know. I don't like that.
So that sounds like it's the blend of it's because it's praised. I guess a good question we should ask each other, especially if we like maybe either don't agree with each other, or like even if we do, what is the game universally praised for? I guess it's praised for what it's praised for its combat, it's praised for its visuals, right? Its music presentation and like the social. What are I guess would it be helpful to ask each other like what is it praised for so we can kind of maybe you're right. Maybe I shouldn't despise certain things and I should be trying to like understand it instead of just being cathartically angry. So how should we what is it praised for? Is it praised for the things that you don't like then?
Yeah, a lot of it
Okay.
is. And once again, a lot of this, like we could spend as much time diving into the psychological aspects of why we don't like some of these things, but I think it simply comes down to at times like certain things just being for you or certain things just not being for you. And it's I know that's reductive and a simplistic way to look at this stuff, but it's simply just I really do think a lot of it comes down to taste with me and some of the games that I'll be mentioning here.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't have any. I no further questions.
Well, hit me with your first one. I'm really I yeah, go ahead. I'll give you free reign. I'm sure I
Uh,
know two, but I don't know the last one.
you know too, because we've talked about it. But I'm really torn of where to start because do I want to offend everyone in the world immediately, or do I want to ease into it? Now we'll just start off with a bang. I don't think Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a good game. I just
Okay.
don't. I think it's a very poorly made game. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it. I'm not sorry, actually. I'm not sorry at all. I wanted somewhere to talk about this. I really hate that game. So I'm going to talk about Breath of the Wild because obviously I haven't played Tears of the Kingdom. I could care less about Tears of the Kingdom. I have zero interest about that game because of how much I did really hate Breath of the Wild. So how do I start this? Because I know everyone's going to be like, oh, you suck. You shouldn't be around. That's fine. So here's what I'm going to say. I'm 36. I grew up playing Zelda games. I adore the Zelda games from days gone by. I love Wind Waker. I love Ocarina of Time. I love Majora's Mask. I love Minish Cap. I love the spin-off ones on GBA. I love all these different variety of ones that are your traditional Zelda games. Now I can fully understand, as you're saying, to try to give this some credence and to realize maybe it is a me problem, although I don't think it is. No one's just brave enough to talk about it. I understand that Breath of the Wild Nintendo wanted to try something new and bold for their new system. They wanted to go open world because everyone else was. That was a stupid move in my opinion. Like you don't do what everyone else is doing. That's not going to work in the long run. Why I don't think Breath of the Wild is a good game is because A, it went open world when it wasn't necessary. No one was clamoring for that. Clearly it worked. I get it. Maybe I'm the anomaly, but the way the open world is, to me, it's barren, it's lifeless, and it's utterly boring. I understand that it was like, oh, we don't want markers, we don't want blah blah blah. No, shut up.
I
I
don't
the
get
thing
that.
the thing that I hate about it is it just feels lifeless and boring. And again, I'm a Zelda fan from the beginning. So my favorite games are the old Zelda games. So I'm not even I love the franchise. But I've tried playing Breath of the Wild 4 or 5 different times. I've probably put in a cumulative 20 hours. So I'm not saying this is like on my pulpit. I've never played the game. The game, just the open world isn't necessary. I hate the whole weapon breaking durability system. Again, I understand people like that. For me, I want to get used to a weapon and feel attached to it and really grow in that bond with what I'm using. I just hate that every second everything breaks. The whole thing where you have to like manage your cold and your heat and your hunger. Again, I get it. People love that kind of stuff in survival games. That to me is just not fun. I can barely survive in real life. I don't want to survive in a game. And there's just no storytelling. I understand it's meant to be like environmental and the little nuggets here and there. To me, it just comes across as a lazy Zelda game. Maybe that's completely blasphemous, but it comes across as a lazy Zelda game where they didn't want to make dungeons, they didn't want to make a full-on story, and they're just like, here, Ubisoft does open worlds, we're going to do an open world. Here, just take your favorite Zelda, we'll make it open world. To me, it doesn't
Yeah.
pan out. It's just not fun. It never captured my attention. And the game runs like garbage. I'm sorry. Going back to play this now, the frame rate is abysmal when you compare it to other games. So it's just not fun. I just don't
Yeah.
think it's fun. And I get why people like it, but it's not a Zelda game. So,
Yeah.
whew, I don't feel good about saying all that because it's been inside for so long because no one ever agrees with me. But man, I do not like that game. So,
Hey, dude, that's what this segment is for. The people wanted to hear the spice, and I'm unfortunately I don't have a lot of spice that I'm coming with here. So you're filling that void for this segment. I think people are wanting a little bit of spice here. Look, I think Tears of the Kingdom, like I said, would have been probably my favorite game of this year if it released anywhere other than the Switch. So anytime you bring up a Switch game, I'm inclined to agree with you that that I don't like it either. But I've never played Breath of the Wild. Played 10 hours of Tears of the Kingdom, 15 hours of it, and I think it is truly a what they did with puzzle solving is some of the most innovative. It's one of the more innovative takes I've seen on puzzle solving in games ever. But with that being said, I didn't think the open world was all that special. I thought the combat was very, 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 very boring. But hey, it's different strokes for different folks. And I never played Breath of the
Yeah.
Wild, so I can't really comment on that one. But yeah,
Yep.
I'm glad you got that out of your system, man.
I don't feel great about it. Again, I want to, you're right. I should be like you because you said, I don't want to hate things. I want people to enjoy things. But sometimes in life, I just get tired of feeling like the only one that doesn't like something. So, right, maybe this is a me problem, but sometimes you just want someone else to be like, yeah, I don't like Breath of the Wild. Yeah, I don't like Persona because you just don't want to think you're the only one. So I probably am the only one, but I just needed to say it. So thank
Well,
you.
yeah,
But if you enjoy the game, awesome. I'm glad I bought my Switch for that game. So that's probably why I'm also disappointed. But
yeah.
so
Well, and
anyway.
it's like people voted for this, so it's I think people probably have a lot of similar things where there's certain franchises, certain games where it's like everybody is unanimously praising this thing. And I feel like the lone guy on the mountain that's screaming up to nobody. And it's yeah, so I think people will find this relatable in some instances where there's not games that or there are games that they feel that way about, but nobody else does. So that's kind of the whole point of this thing. But
All right, what do you got?
into
What do you got, man? What do you? I don't know. I don't know what any of yours are. I don't think so. I'm excited. So
I so I have a few wrote down here. I'm gonna go with one that I do enjoy, but I don't understand like the unanimous praise that it was given. And
okay.
that is going to be Hades. So I finished I made it through one run of Hades. I thought it was really, really fun. I thought it was really fun. But whenever I heard that like you had to go through it 10 more times to unlock the real ending, that was when I realized, okay, it might not be that fun. It was okay to go through it once. It was good enough to go through it once. There's no world where I'm playing through this 10 more times to unlock the true ending. And it's not like a difficulty thing. I didn't find the game like punishingly difficult or anything like that. I liked swapping between the different powers, but it's and I hear people all the time praise the narrative for Hades, and I'm just like, okay, sure. I don't think I could tell you much about the narrative of Hades at all. Like I don't remember anything from what was told in that story. The combat was fun. I like getting the new weapons at and at the end of the run and then swapping some of those out and keeping some of your upgrades and stuff like that. That is cool, but I don't know. It just it there's no chance I was ever going to play through that thing 10 times. I didn't enjoy it that much. I don't hate it, but I would say I am like lukewarm at best on it.
I mean, you're really good about giving fair takes here because you still enjoyed some of these experiences, some parts of it. So it sounds like with Hades, where was I going to go with this? Is it? Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm only asking this because I haven't really played much Hades, maybe a couple hours. It is a roguelite, right?
Yeah,
I
but
couldn't remember.
it's not like super hardcore
Okay.
in its approach to the rogue. It's more roguelite with its
Okay.
elements and you know what, here's the truth about Hades, man. I really like I'm trying to sit here and think about my memories with the game, and I really don't have many. Like it just didn't leave like a lasting impression on me the way that it did a lot of other people. And I think that might be the main thing is it's just like it was something that I thought was cool enough, but never ever in my wildest dreams would like this crack a 9 out of 10. Like anything close to that. It's like a to me it's like a fun 7.5, 8 out of 10.
So you don't. So it sounds like you recognize it's good, but
Yeah.
maybe it shouldn't always be up there in the pantheon of best indie games of all time. Is that
Yeah,
fair?
I mean that's the thing is it's like
Okay.
almost every list you ever pull up, it's like 1 to 5. You know what I mean? It's either number
Right.
one or somewhere in the top five. And it's just like I've played I've played 4 indie games this year that I like way more than Hades.
Yeah. Listen, that's a good take. Honestly, I don't know. I only played a few hours of it, so I can't say much, but that makes sense. It didn't click with me at all, so I can
Yeah.
understand. I can understand what you're saying. So it sounds like you wouldn't like a game like Near Automata, then, right? Where you have to beat that game like 3 or 4 times to finally get like the real ending.
It depends. You know what I mean? It depends. There was just nothing about Hades where I was like, there was no reason for me. There was nothing that made me want to go back through it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Maybe with Nier Automata, I haven't played that, but maybe that would
Okay.
be something where I'd want to go back and play through it multiple times. I've played through Resident Evil 2. I think the remake I've played through 4 times, the original I've played through 100 times. So there are games that I love replaying, but yeah, Hades was not one at all for me.
Okay. I mean that's a good one. I didn't expect that. So but it makes sense. That was a good way to look at it. So
And to be fair, I did finish. I got through the first run, so people can't say, "Oh, it's a skill issue." I got through. I got through the first run, and according to everybody, it seems to get easier as you keep going. So I got through it. Just never wanted to go back to it. So that's my hot Hades take there.
your man, your takes I feel like are not quite as how do I say this? This is gonna sound mean now. I feel like your takes are probably like more understood by many people. Whereas I'm going in like the really deep end here, which and I'm gonna feel real bad now. I want you just to give me one that's like everyone loves and you're the only one. Because
I,
I've heard other people say, no, that's not really okay. Never mind.
Nah,
I'm not
no,
gonna say anything
yeah,
else.
I don't know with Hades. I feel like I might be kind of on an island with my take on Hades, even though I didn't.
Really?
I think so.
Okay.
I've never heard someone like badmouth Hades.
Interesting. Okay.
Have you?
Maybe I just hang out with the wrong people, I guess, which is no one because I don't have friends. I guess I would agree with you on that because it didn't click with me at all. I played it for those few hours and I'm like, it's fine. There's 100
Yeah,
other indie games that are much better than this. I also
yeah.
don't really care for the developer's work though. The game before that, which was
Supergiant. They
what was
did
the first game?
Bastion.
I think Bastion's one of the worst indie games. I'm sorry, that's not one of the takes here. I just don't think Bastion's good, so I'm not a fan of them. But okay, hey, Hades, that's a good choice because you're right. There are people that really adore that game clearly because it's always
Yeah,
on lists.
yeah. Across unanimously somewhere in that top five range, always. But
All
hey,
right, there you go.
what's your next one, man?
I'm going to stick on the indie scene and to give some credence to this. Again, this isn't to like toot a horn or anything like that, but I don't want people to be like, oh, it's because you don't like indie games. The channel I used to run was an indie game channel, and I reviewed hundreds of indie games. So I want to make that clear, not as a pat the back, but as like I play indie games more than any other type of games, period. So I don't think Hollow Knight is that great. Hollow Knight is I think it's gorgeous and a beautiful game. Hey, I just hate bugs, so it's never going to appeal to me, period, because it's all about dark, spooky bugs. That just won't ever appeal. But this isn't so much like the Breath of the Wild, where I just don't think it's a good game. I think Hollow Knight clearly is a well-made game. It's just it's a Metroidvania. There are hundreds of other excellent indie Metroidvanias out there, and of course, now that I said that, I'm struggling to think of the ones that are going to come to mind, which is going to be really bad. Tales of Iron, that's a fantastic one. Is that a Metroidvania? Yeah.
You had the
Dang
one
it, dude! I had a whole. I just completely
I,
like ruined that thing because I couldn't think of any now that are so much better.
a
Oh
beloved
gosh.
one that Fist game that came out. I believe that was a Metroidvania. It was a 2021, I believe. Fist
Oh,
something
something. Yeah,
North.
it was like a acronym, right?
Yeah,
Like forged in
Forged. Yeah,
shadow something or other. I don't know.
yeah,
I'm not going to talk much about the Hollow Knight. Honestly, I very much see the merits of that game, kind of like you're saying with Hades. I get why
right.
people like it. It's more that it's again like Hades. It's always the top indie game. Everyone is asking for Silk Song, and I'm just like, you do realize there's probably 200 other indie games that are phenomenal out there that aren't Hollow Knight, right? Like there's lots
Yeah,
of Metroidvanias. Hello, Dead Cells. That
right.
one deserves to be up there, but it's just the world is fine. It's a very beautiful game. The presentation is fantastic. The combat is generic. The world exploration is pretty generic. Like it's not anything you don't see in any other Metroidvania. And I just kind of like Hades. It's a good game, just not for me. And I just don't think it should be up there in the pantheon of great indies. because there are lots of other ones that get passed aside, which I'm forgetting, which is just going to look bad, but whatever. Here we are. So
Yeah,
anyway,
no, it's it's I feel you in the fact that there are so many great indie games out there, and I don't know, it's a bummer that how many of them get overshadowed, and then like these few that just stand out like so far above the others, and they kind of crack into that mainstream appeal. And it's just like, I wonder how that, I don't know if that's marketing. I don't know how that really ends up happening, but yeah, no, I feel you. There are so many indie games that I want to scream from the mountaintop, like, dude, Killer Frequency rules. Go check out Killer Frequency. But no, man,
what do you,
that's a good shout out.
what I'm realizing doing this is I actually don't like talking about this stuff. You're right. It's funny doing this out loud now. I'm like, man, talking about things we don't like just really doesn't feel as good as talking about things we do like. I'm just like, I feel really awful about talking about things because I know people made them and people love them. And I'm such a people pleaser in regular life that I don't want anyone to be sad ever. So I'm like, this doesn't feel as good as I thought. This actually feels really crappy. So hey,
No,
remember, we're just two people. If we don't like something, it's not going to affect if you like it. So
dude, there's our 150 viewers. I don't think, unfortunately, that they are going to affect Hollow Knight Silk Song's development. I don't think they're going to affect the performance. I think Hollow Knight Silk Song is going to be just fine. But the one I'm going to shout out real quick, similar to you with your take on Breath of the Wild, I I, I Shadow of the Colossus, man, or Shadow of the Colossus. Is that how you say
yep,
Shadow? Yeah,
that's right.
dude. I played it for about 5 hours. I was painfully bored. I look, and here's the one thing I will say. I didn't play it when it launched in the PS2 era. So that is a humongous kind of difference maker there. If I would have played it when it came out, I'm sure I would have had a much more appreciation for it because there was nothing else like that at the time. But when I played it, the remastered version, there's 100 other open world games that are artsy and that get you, in the feels and have this narrative environmental storytelling going on, and the kind of psychological effect of who is the monster. Are you the monster for taking out the monster? Like, I've seen it, you know what I mean? And I just don't think it had the effect on me because I played it at the wrong time. Once again, I know I'm not here with the hot takes. I wish I could sit here and just give you all these hot takes about things. I don't think the game is bad, but it was boring to me. It was just really, really boring to me. So, Shadow of the Colossus, I'm sorry, man, but I found you boring.
Did you first, when you first played it, I can't remember if you just said, did you play the Blue Point remake then? You said,
Yeah.
right? Not, so you haven't even touched the original one then, right? On
No.
PS2. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Just the remake.
I mean, that's not unfair, man. I mean, you're right. I mean, isn't that the point of the game? It is meant to be like a barren emotional tale, and that's kind of indicative of the world, but then it's just about these big beings that you come across. So that's really not far off the point of what it was. So that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. And just climbing up them, I thought that was cool, but the scale of it, like I had seen putting it in the perspective of the time it released, for sure, that is super impressive on a technical perspective, and impressive on kind of ushering in this new era of indies, and kind of seeing that progression take place throughout the years. That was, I would say, kind of the first snowball that got rolling down the hill. So definitely got to give it its credit there. And then, a lot of areas you can give it its credit, but didn't click with me at all. And that's kind of what this segment is. It's just games that didn't click with us. It doesn't necessarily mean it's games we didn't like. I think that's in the title of the, of the vote. It was games we didn't like. Doesn't mean bad, just we didn't like them.
Yeah. That's, I feel like we should start over the recording because I did say the game is bad for Breath of the Wild. So maybe now I feel, now again, now my stupid people pleasing brain is being like, you're supposed to like everything because everyone needs to just get along. So,
Dude, no.
but you're right. That's a good point. There's merits to all of them. We just may not click with them. And that's going to be true for like anything in life, right? A food, a movie, a music band, whatever,
A music, yeah.
a music.
Dude, wait until some new release pops out that I find awful. I'll rail on it for until the cows come up. It's just certain things are not going to click with everybody. It's just the nature of opinions. It's the nature of, but you know, we're not trashing these games necessarily. It's just our opinions on them.
And at the end of the day, there's, I think there's a lot of people out there, and none of it really matters. It's just games, like we're having fun. But like at the end of the day, I
Absolutely.
think there's a lot of people out there that probably do not like things that are universally praised, but either just don't want to admit it or whatever. So like,
Yeah.
hey, like it's okay. We're not all gonna like the same things. So
Absolutely. Well, you said you had three on your list. I'm pretty sure I know where you're heading next. But yeah, is it what I'm thinking it is?
I mean, probably. So this is very much one that I guess I just admit with all these games that I guess I am the problem. It's Elden Ring. So the game is gorgeous and beautiful. And I can see the value in that, but much like Breath of the Wild, and kind of like I guess to an extent what you said with Shadow of the Colossus, Elden Ring, I bought that day one. I was so pumped because I love Bloodborne. I love the Souls series, even though I don't like Souls games as much anymore. I still bought that day one, and just nothing. It just didn't click. I've started that game over like Breath of the Wild multiple times, loving some of the Souls games. Like Dark Souls 3 is one of my favorite games. Bloodborne is fantastic. Um, Elden Ring, I can see the appeal, certainly. And I don't look at Elden Ring the same as Breath of the Wild. Like that's a boring, lifeless world. Like there's a lot to do and it's very beautiful. Um, I just I don't know. I think it's the problem is I hate not knowing where to go. Again, that's a me problem. I hate just dropped into a world and it's like, okay, go. And like I get the appeal of that because it means like then you can find the quote unquote easier path as opposed to like the end game stuff. But I don't know. I tried Elden Ring so many times and I'm just like, this isn't fun. Like that's just my thought is like, I'm not having fun. So I'm not going to play it if I'm not having fun. And maybe that would have been the fair critique to Breath of the Wild, although that's a little different because I have the past games that I love so much with that. But
Yeah.
Elden Ring, I can see the value. I can see why people love it. I just don't. I think the world it didn't need to be open world in that same sense, and I just hate not knowing where to go. I think that's what it comes down to. Maybe that's why I don't like it.
Dude, I'm in the same boat as you with I do not like this new idea of like, okay, no map markers for this million-mile long journey that you're going to go on in this humongous open world, these endless possibilities. Like, I love map markers because it lets me go, okay, here's the cool thing. I just want to see cool things. I, well, you know how my brain is. If I'm not getting the spice, if I'm not getting the variety, if I'm not seeing some diversity of locations, diversity of just different things hitting me, I just tune out because it's like I'm getting bored. And uh, I'll go ahead and here's the thing with Souls games for me is that maybe once I retire, I could get into into that genre. I have way too much shit going on in my personal life that is already super challenging to ever want to bang my head against a wall with one boss over and over and over again. And then look, here's the thing. Resident Evil Revelations, that final boss was really challenging, but guess what? I start back over right at the boss again and again and again until I get it right. With the Souls games, like checking back in from the bonfire, looping back around, doing the up, down, and some jumping jacks. Like, no, dude, I'm not spending my time that way. I'm just not going to spend my time that way because I'm already stressed from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. Whenever I grab a controller, it is literally to wind that down. So look, here's the thing I'll say. I agree with you, Jeffrey. I will go much further. I will never touch any of I'm getting to the point where I don't think I'll ever play a Souls game again until I retire. I think there is probably a really like amazing feeling of because I felt that with Sifu, that challenge, the reward of but Sifu's 8 hours, 10 hours. I can't do it for hundreds of hours. Like it's just I play games to wind down, not to raise my blood pressure more than it already is.
Right. That's a valuable point. And it is interesting because clearly some people play those games to wind down, right? Isn't that's what's interesting? I think about
Do
Souls
they?
games. I know people that find those types of games the challenge, and I guess to an extent, like the repetitiveness of having to like retrace and do it again until you get it right. I know people that and have heard in the discourse that that can be relaxing. I guess almost on a different note, I play a game like Fortnite to relax. That's a really it's not intense in the art style, but like it's a very intense battle royale. That's not stress relieving, but that makes me relaxed. So I guess I can see that, but I can see what you're saying as far as like when you have the time, when you don't have to stress about work, when you don't stress about money as much or whatever. I can certainly see exactly what you're saying because it's interesting. The only Souls game that I've actually beat, I've played all the others, is Dark Souls 3, but the only reason for that is because I had moved somewhere. I didn't have a job. I was looking for a job and trying to find work, but that allowed me the extra, exactly what you're saying, not that extra stress, even though there's stress of finding a job. And it allowed that mental space to go up against the challenges. So I think what you said is a huge point for that
Yeah.
genre in general.
Yeah, man. One thing I will say that you hit on that made me really kind of reconsider my thought there is that I used to be huge into competitive NBA 2K.
Hmm.
And like not online, but sitting on the couch with buddies, and it would get to the point where like we're fist fighting over a video game. And so like that is not at all winding down. And I would do that for because like we talked about this before, but I lived right next to my high school. So we would literally have, I mean, 20 15 20 person tournaments going on and like playing for money and stuff like that, and it would get to the point where you're fighting physically, and that's the opposite of stress relieving, and then it's the opposite of the experience that I go for now. But I was also, once again, I was in high school. I didn't have a job, and it was like, so, but you have school or whatever. But yeah, it is that weird thing of, I think that there's a tremendous amount of value to be had out of those experiences, but I can't do it right now. Because even with Resident Evil Revelations, I literally, like, at that final boss, I felt my face getting red. I felt like the blood pressure come rising. Like it was, yeah, I can't do it. But I respect them, but I can't do it.
Sure. So no getting good for you, huh?
Not right now. Wait until I'm, hopefully the next 15 years I'll be closing in on retirement a little bit, but we'll see.
Those are good points. Do you have other games? I don't have any other ones. So that's those are my takes. Do you have other ones you want to, if you do, go ahead. I want to hear what else you got.
I'll go through a couple real quick.
Sure.
Metroid Prime, I bought the remaster, didn't like that. Played it on the GameCube, didn't like that. I love backtracking. Holy hell, man. The backtracking in this, just for whatever reason, I love it in the classic Resident Evil games.
Hmm.
I do not like it. I think I don't like it in the first person perspective. It something about the scenery and not being able to really identify something about the motion that your character is moving in, and like it's so disjointed for me. So Metroid Prime never could click with that.
That's fair.
I okay.
You can
So
run through all of them. It's fine. I don't have any more because those got all my catharsis out. Now I just feel bad. So it's your turn to keep going.
I'm gonna throw one out here that I do like.
Okay.
But I think that this is crazy that people like consider this the best PlayStation exclusive.
Okay.
And that's 2018's God of War and Ragnarok. I
Hmm.
I like both of those games. I think 2018 was a huge just game changer for that franchise to be more, serious and kind of the sad dad thing going on there. But dude, because 2022, it was pretty much straight up God of War or Elden Ring. And to me, I think that Horizon Forbidden West is like leaps and bounds better than Ragnarok in every way, from the combat to the technical side of things. How technically impressive Horizon Forbidden West is, I think it's legitimately the best looking, best running, best playing game, maybe across the board on any of the current gen, consoles. I think that game is a marvel. The scale of it, the spectacle of it, it is crazy to me that like people just was like, oh yeah, it's another open world game. It's like, what? This is a reinvention of that first game with so many new mechanics added in and just so much, just a visual overhaul, mechanical overhaul. It was crazy to me. And this is, once again, this is more of my disgruntled feelings towards Ragnarok because of Horizon Forbidden West just being pushed aside. But it was like, to me, I was like, it's not even close what the best PlayStation exclusive of 2022 is. I think Horizon Forbidden West to me is like a 9.7 and Ragnarok's like a 8.6, you know? It's great.
Okay.
But it's I don't think it's even close to on the level of Forbidden West. So that's I'll close it out there. I have some others. Jak and Daxter 1 I didn't click with. Fallout 4 I didn't click with. Death Stranding, I know people are split on that one. I think Death Stranding is mindlessly boring, but that's yeah, I'll leave it there.
No, I mean it's fine. Go ahead if you got ones. I just have put so much stock in these three that I now feel guilty about. So I'm glad that you keep on going. I can agree with some of that. Like I never played Death Stranding, so I can't say anything. I didn't play that game because it just sounded pretty boring. But then for the same reason too, and this isn't like a spicy take. This is just because I didn't really play much of them. Like the Metal Gear series, I just really didn't play much of them. I played the first one way back in the day on PlayStation 1, but I've tried every other MGS game and they just didn't click with me. It just didn't, like Kojima's way of writing and all over the place. Just for me, just didn't work. But I can certainly understand why people do. And like Fallout stuff, I purely just don't care for the Fallout games because I don't like post-apocalyptic stuff. I like more fantasy. So, there's just, I think what I'm learning through us talking about this is that like a lot of times it just comes down to a genre, or it comes down to a type of gameplay, or it comes down to the overall vibe, right? Like sometimes it's not just like everything. It's just one little piece that will make us not want to, dive into it. So it's interesting.
It's 100%. That's all it is. That's all it ends up coming down to is simply just the fact of, does it click with you based off of the things you like? And then sometimes there's the anomaly where it's right up your alley and it doesn't quite click with you. And those are even more interesting. I think we could maybe go into that at a later time, but that's a harder one. That would be like maybe one or two games that fit that mold for me of like, games that are right up my alley, action adventure or action RPGs, or, that just for whatever reason, they didn't quite click. But yeah, it's just, it comes down to personal kind of taste with these things. So.
Yep. It is. And at the end of the day, this was just meant to be fun.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like our takes, whatever, we're just meant to be fun. And so if you have games that you haven't wanted to tell people, or if there's a game that you're like, gosh, everyone talks about it with my friends, but I don't talk about it. So like, let us know in the comments, like it'd be cool to hear. I think it'll at least help me put at ease, because now I feel awful for like hating on things for a second. I want to know, like, if there's if you guys, you know what I'm saying? It just let us know if there's similar experiences for you.
Totally, man.
It'd be fun to talk about that.
Everybody has something that is universally praised that doesn't click with them at all. But I will say the one thing that is absolutely universally praised that everybody loves and that I love as well, that is Fast and Furious. I rewatched Fast and Furious 1
That was
and
such
2.
a weird tangent. Okay.
I rewatched Fast and Furious 1 and 2 on Peacock the other day. Dude, after we were talking about it, Fast and Furious 1 is so good. I haven't watched it in so long, dude. That is the dumbest fun movie I've ever seen in my life. It is such a blast to go back to. It's like it is so early 2000s, man, and it was an absolute delight. We need that. That's also another one. The like dumb fun, but like dumb fun games, great dumb fun games.
Yeah.
You can't beat to me like a real good dumb fun game. That I love turning off my brain and just having some dumb fun, like with Gears of War.
Do you know how many games? This is going to sound silly, but it's true. Do you know how many games I download that are horse games?
Really?
Like riding horses. I don't know anything about equestrian horses. I download so many cartoony horse games and cartoony games on PlayStation for that exact reason, because you can turn off your brain. They're not really good, but they're just kind of fun to tool around with for a little bit. So to your point, that would be a really fun topic. Games that are just not really good, or maybe even games that really aren't like well made, but we enjoy them just because it's a great way just to have some fun for an hour or so. That could be a fun one too. So
this is wild to me. So you don't like have any interest in horses in real life?
I don't, it would just be pure apathy. Like I don't not like them. I don't like love them. I don't know. I just, for some reason, whenever I see a game pop up that features like, like,
this is bizarre. This is so bizarre.
yeah, whenever I said now it sounds so awkward. Now I need to go to therapy. But like whenever I see a game, okay, I'm gonna give an example. There was a game that came out earlier this year called like Emerald Valley Ranch, something other on PlayStation. It's not a fantastic game, but you ride around on a horse and build up your little town. There's another game I think that's based on like a kid's cartoon called like Hazelwood Farm or something, and it's
Okay.
clearly, and I download these games because I'm like, oh, there's like a cartoony horse and you like do things. This is going to be fun. They're never usually fun, but I keep buying them.
Do you like farming in games?
Every time I think I do, I don't. So yes, but
Hmm.
then every time I start playing a farming game, I immediately am like, why do I play farming games? But then I still buy every single one that comes out.
Okay,
So
so
yes, but
that's
no,
all right. All right. I see where this is. So it's kind of an associated thing there where
no,
farm.
it's not.
Oh, it's just straight up horses.
Yes,
Like, so if there
the
was no
farming is just like
farming,
random sometimes. This could just be a straight up game where you ride a horse around a village. And I'm like, yeah, that looks great. And it's not.
I that is very wild to me. Like because
I
that would
need
be
help.
like,
I need help.
yeah,
No,
that
shut
that
up.
might
You need
that
help.
I definitely need help. Because like I would never buy a basketball. Like I don't play FIFA because I don't care about soccer. I love basketball, so I buy all the basketball games. But I don't like racing or I don't like cars, but I'll buy a
Okay.
racing game. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's something that's saving you there.
No, I'm just insane. It's fine. So we should end on that insanity. And I'm going to go to therapy immediately. So
I gotta get to therapy. Gotta get to therapy. We can't get on that rant here, but
no,
I
we'll end it there. We have lots of good, exciting topics. The point is, that's the fun thing, is we can have it all be fun and we'll talk about all of our weirdness and we can all share our weirdness, and that's okay because you be you and just be happy. I guess. I don't know. Well, that was, I don't know. I don't know. I'm going with that. That was
be
ridiculous.
you, be happy, be smooth, take it easy,
Keep smoothing. Keep smoothing.
keep it smoothing. See you guys soon.
Oh, is that where we're ending? Okay, bye.